judgment at the moment, and I need to talk more with council about this, is that two of the three seem to be responsive. One, there's some questions about whether it is responsive because it's talking about a survey sample rather than a townwide survey. So that might render it ineligible. And then there's the question of the solicitation of applications.
Excuse me, Bart.
Asked for references.
Here.
And the question is whether HRA, some member of HRA or myself would follow up and contact references, or that we just need to look at the references identified on the application. So there are several questions that council will need to answer and several questions that HRA will need to answer. There are three applications. Broadly speaking, all three are responsive. One is more questionable, two seem fully responsive, and then the final question will be whether the HRA will be obligated to accept a low bid, or that there might be some other considerations that would be allowed in evaluating those applications.
All right, so I think they should be circulated along with what the requirements were that we issued, and what was submitted should be circulated to this board members. We shouldn't be talking about it offline. It shouldn't be conducted as a meeting, but we should all have it before the next meeting. We'll put it on as an agenda item on the 24th. The 24th, we're probably gonna have a full schedule. We got Chris Diorio and Kevin Dondrad from Tech coming in that night, so, but we'll get it on the agenda for that night and deal with it that night.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
So with your, if I understand
You guys can sit in the chairs up there.
your guidance correctly, Barley, I will recirculate all three of the applications to HRA along with the solicitation of services document, and HRA members will be then prepared at the meeting on the 24th to discuss those, and then I'll have some clarification from council about whether HRA is required to accept a lower bid if all the applications are deemed to be responsive, and then the question of whether one of those applications is non-responsive because it indicates a survey sample rather than a townwide survey.
So as a board, do we have to kind of formally let him know that we want him to talk to council and that we want him to identify both kind of questions? One about if the incomplete is complete enough for us to go, and if we have to go with the lowest bidder, or we can use some criteria by we think they're more competent or something like that if they're in the ballpark. So you're going to ask those questions of council, right? And then we'll be prepared to know what our game plan is.
We'll discuss it at the next meeting. We'll have the stuff in front of us and we can talk about it at that point.
No, so I'll share what I learned from council with the HRA membership in advance of the meeting on the 24th.
Great.
So that you can take that into consideration as part of the decision-making process. And I also don't know, earlier on there was some discussion in HRA about potentially inviting applicants to do presentations. However, if council says the low bid prevails, then presentations may be moved. So I'll get clarification on that as well.
And I think at the next meeting, we're going to be going through them and stuff. I don't know that we'll be making a decision at the next meeting, but we'll get through them and go from there. If we want to bring them in, we can.
Yeah.
Yes.
At that point.
So what are we doing about checking references? That was one of his other questions. Do we want to, one of us, volunteer to check references firsthand, or have him check references?
I think we're going to look at the RFQs and the responses at the next meeting, go through it from there, and then we'll go to the next step.
We'll check the references. Okay, that'll save us some work.
Would it be all right if I request from HRA just permission to be in communication with the applicants to let them know the timetable for this process, so they aren't in limbo about?
Yeah.
Any objections? Any objections from any of the board members?
No.
That's a
No,
good
I
idea.
think that's fine.
Okay, great. I'll just let them know the timetable of the meeting on the 24th, and then there might be a request for presentations, and so I'll get clarification from council about whether it even makes sense to invite presentations if there can be criteria beyond the lowest bid.
All right.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Joan, do we have a warrant tonight?
Yes, we have a very short warrant. First item up is for invoice for Catherine Goldhammer for administrative and website activities for October, $243.75. And the next one is for Mark Hammond, our technical consultant, for October services, $1,305 for a total warrant of $1,548.75. Any questions from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve the warrant as presented.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Dan Kernan. All those in favor, signify by saying by aye. Kelly, aye.
Charlie Richardson, aye.
Dan Kernan, aye.
Joan Senator, aye.
Adrian Pavement, aye.
All right. Next up on the agenda, we have the urban renewal plan. Last time we left off, we were talking about different parcels that may be suitable for development and which wouldn't be suitable for development. There was a lengthy discussion about two-way roads and whether we should be moving forward with development without moving forward with the two-way roads. I think the discussion went around for a while, but I think it was a good discussion. It was lively, and so I'd like to continue on that discussion for a little bit. I know we talked about being able to do some stuff without actually waiting for the two-way roads, and so I think identifying what parcels, potential development parcels, would be a good idea. In the urban renewal plan, parcels are numbered. And, it's page 24 of the urban renewal plan. I know we talked about parcel 1, which is the 5th Street parcel, as a potential development site. And so I'm looking for feedback from the board, but I think that's one that could be done without waiting on all two-way roads, and so I'm opening the discussion up to the board members and see what you think. The lot sizes are on the back. Adrian, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Can you define, we've talked about this before, can you define development? Like, in what sense are you using the word?
Well, I mean, everybody on the board has their own idea of what development would mean. For me, I see it as some sort of housing, potentially, or something that's brick and mortar, bringing tax revenue, providing housing. But if somebody else has some other idea for what they belong there, I know they always talk about the artist studio going on that particular parcel. I think Hull Artists has since withdrawn their interest on that parcel. So I'm opening it up to discussion to any of the board members and what their thoughts are.
I'll start.
Go ahead.
How's that? Okay, I think I've stated this before. I'm still interested in, for the community, to have a community center, and looking at, I know you have it by numbers, I was looking at more Lot B, and have an open public park, maybe a mobile type of shell for activities and stuff, but right from, all that Lot B, build a community center that can be used for the residents of Hull. Could be part of an artist, it can be where people gather for different events, and then have it adjoining and spread out all the way down to the DCR parking lot, where you'd have nice landscaping and park benches and other activities. So that is my suggestion, based upon what I hear from feedback from the residents.
So on Lot B, you're
I
talking,
don't know which one's B. There's
Oh,
one, two, three. So I'm like, so.
Okay, I only had Lottie, I think Lot B is, and correct me if I'm wrong,
I got it here because he put this, until now I have these
I know, I
numbers.
have its numbers. But is Lot B
would that be Lot 2 and 3 in the middle?
in the middle? Yeah. What about 4?
And this picture has the
I'm confused
the
on
cross
this one.
streets, and it doesn't match the current world, so it's,
This one I'm confused.
yeah, it's, I'm gonna bring up the map first.
Okay.
How's that? I like what you were saying, I just was so confused, and I missed part
Well, I
of it.
couldn't go by these numbers because I got confused. So I just remember Lottie, and I didn't bring my
So let's see if we go to the,
map.
Chance to make it so everybody knows what you're talking about.
The what?
No map or something like that up on the screen.
We can't put it up on the screen.
Maybe up behind your head.
I can hand some of these out, and you can,
Can I?
here we go. And there's no one on this one either.
Carly, Adrian's got her hand up.
go ahead, Adrian.
Oh, you're muted.
Muted.
Hey, Bartley, since we have no we don't have a video here, can you just, which map are you referring to?
I was referring to the map in the draft urban renewal plan.
We share the screen?
You may be able to share the screen.
Page
24?
Page 24.
Yep. And page 25 has the lot sizes. They're going to put it up on the screen.
My sharing is not turned on, so my, if I can be allowed to share, I'll share my screen.
There's chairs here. If you guys want to sit in the chairs, you don't have to sit on the floor. Please be quiet. Hold on.
Okay, hold on.
Point of order,
Go ahead. Identify yourself and your address.
the French folks out in Rockaway. I just want to point out, this is not the current survey of the HOA. This is the proposed two-way road plan with the proposed parcels.
You said it was a point of order.
This, I know.
This isn't a point of order. Point of order is procedural.
Oh, sorry. I thought.
All right, then
I
hold
thought
off.
It was a point of order.
Hold off.
Sorry, my confusion. But this is not.
Hold off.
not-
It was a point of order.
Here we go. Is there another parcel? They were looking for two there. So, Bartley,
Can you flip that, Mark?
I did do the share, is it showing up?
It's showing up. It just needs to be flipped.
rotate it.
Rotate.
Flipped,
Rotate to the
Not
left.
rotated.
okay, let
You can.
me see if I can rotate it, hold on.
It's a two-way road system.
Again, if you,
Bartley, can I say something real quick?
Sure, go right ahead, Adrian.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank everyone so much for being there in the room. I looked on full TV, I see all of you, but anytime someone speaks, I basically can't hear the speaker. So if we could limit side conversation so I can actually hear, I would really, really, really appreciate it, and I thank you. It was very hard to hear who was actually speaking just a few minutes ago. So just want to thank everyone for being there, but I'd like to hear the conversation.
So how's that gonna go?
I can't
Can't flip it.
seem to rotate it. Yeah, sorry, I can't rotate it.
Do a
So
screenshot.
it's confusing.
I can't.
Yeah, see, I think you were looking at it, it's there's a, because of the parking, you have Lot A, and Lot B, and Lot C. Lot A is the part that is Fifth Street lot. Lot B is the main, Lot C is the triangle lot. And there's where you got your A, B, and C. Okay, so, I would like to make a comment
Go right ahead.
on Joan's description. When she was talking, she was using the parking lot. Lot A is the Fifth Street lot. This is not what the HRA property looks like. This has got the two-way road. And what she was talking about is the existing property. Lot A is the Fifth Street lot. The main lot in the middle,
Lot B.
Lot B. And that is, Lot B is everything not including the Whole Shore Common. And then there's Whole Shore Common, which you might know, it's kind of fenced off right there in the middle. And then Lot C is the triangle lot. Okay, so when so just in context, because I was struggling with the map that didn't, and I was like, I know what Lot B is, but I'm confused because I was looking at a map that didn't have a Lot B, so.
So basically, to paraphrase, Joan, you were saying community center, something on the middle lot, the main lot. in the
Middle. Yes.
Any other board members?
Yeah.
Charlie, go ahead.
Obviously, I'm new, but I've lived here. I'm really nice to see some people. I'd love to introduce you to, or me to you at the end, because I've only, seen you in the Nantasket Times, or just your name on the screen. But I think my biggest challenge is, I used the word, I think, 5 times, the word compromise. And I just think we have to get that out of the way first. In other words, is there 2 separate pieces of people that just want development, meaning brick and mortar, and the other folks who want nothing, for lack of a better word? But, where's the in-between? In other words, as I read through that survey in 2001, and there was another woman who gave us a survey that Nantasket Times did at the couple meetings ago. But at the end of the day, it wasn't 100% either way. The reality is that the vast majority of people who filled out the survey and who I feel right and are active on social media are definitely against development, whatever that word is. But there's still 20 to 25% of the people who were filling out the surveys, et cetera. So, I mean, I want to get to a compromise, and I want to throw out myself, the people I've talked to, my relatives who were here, really trying to get a diverse representation of what's needed. And I looked at the mission and those 5 things that when I was appointed, I was asked, to talk about what I thought. And I want to satisfy the mission. And I think one of the missions that we can do is looking at this big 15-acre parcel of land and looking at it as an asset. It's a huge asset. And I see us, even if we took 3 acres of it, or just because it's 3, if it's 15 acres, I'm thinking 1/5, and that's 20%. We took 20% of it, not having to go into whether it's B or A or 1 or 7 right now, but 20% of it. If we could agree upon, let's just throw that number out as a starting point and say, gosh, what could we do as an asset like that? When I looked at Bay Street, and I look at those 2 buildings right now adjacent to the HRA lot that got sold for over $600,000 for a postage stamp, and I'm thinking, gosh, we could garner, and we meaning the town could garner $6 million or so. What we could do with that? What could we do for that? Could we, I don't know, could we just think out of the box? I know where I was in Maine, there was a philanthropist who basically said they wanted to give money, put it in a trust, and it would cap the property taxes. I don't know. Could we do something like that? Could we look and we see that whoever's on a fixed income here, we cap their sewer bill, we cap their, the light bill? In other words, think out of the box. Can't we, when someone talks on one side or the other, can't we just listen for a second and just say, I don't know, let's have a conversation, I have been, I don't have social media, but people have said, "Oh, you're a crony, you're a developer, you're a real estate guy." I mean, no, I'm a Holonian. I grew up here. I love this place. I want the best for everybody, but I would love to be able to talk to people to see what we could do. I'm appointed, so I'm going to run, and if I'm elected, I just want to go on the record to say, I see this as an asset. I see at least 20% of it being able to garner income to help a lot of different things in town. And the big part of it is to leave that swath of land, basically from the paved parking as you're driving out of town where the DCR lot is, all the way down to, on both sides. I see that as a beautiful open space. But boy, couldn't we take advantage of either sides as an example? Wouldn't it be great to have that massive space and have the park system? I've had folks talking to me when I like the community center. I've had someone talk to me about having a music festival, and having that beautiful spot every year as a music festival. And the person who thought of that, or who's got that as an idea, has really done some good thinking. And when they came to me, I listened. I listened. I don't know if it can work, but boy, instead of coming in saying where they're going to park, how they're going to have the lights out, all those different things, why not just sit back? Because I asked him, gosh, what are you going to do about parking? He said, well, there's over 3,000 parking spaces up at the Hingham Boat Club. If we have it on the weekend, that could be part of the ticket. We'll bust them down. But let's at least get to a point where we can listen to people without, Bartley's speaking, I'm not going to listen. Dan's speaking, I'm not going to listen. Let's at least throw it on the table. I want people to know if people want me to continue, I'm working towards a compromise. I see super value in this place as an asset, and I can talk further, but I needed to get that out there.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, can I go next?
Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, so an asset. You gotta look at that word very carefully. I believe that it is an extraordinarily precious piece of land. I believe it's a unique piece of land beyond the scope of building a few more houses on it. I believe that we have lots of houses in this city or town. We have one of the highest densities in this town, and we're building large buildings. I want to just sidestep. I think that it was not a good idea to tear down 2 cute, affordable houses, to build something that's worth a lot more and spend $650,000, take 2 elderly families out of those houses, and then brag that we accomplished something great, when I think the town is supposed to be trying to achieve affordable housing and keep small families, young people, and old people in the town. So taking credit for that, I don't believe it is something we should be taking credit for or bragging that we encouraged the destruction of 2 little houses in order to build a larger condominium complex that is nowhere near as attractive as how charming those were. If they were restored, they would have added to the charm of our town. So we start by having 2 opinions, and I let you talk for quite a long time. Okay.
I just know that.
So may
I wasn't bragging about it. I was commenting on the price of it.
I understand. It's just a different way to think.
Right.
And I listen to you completely, but I do think different.
Right.
I do not believe that it is a financial asset. It could be, and I think that would be a terrible thing to do. We should not be treating it as a financial asset. We should treat it like the United States treats Yosemite Park. It is our Yosemite Park. It has sunrises when you are going to work in the morning. It has sunsets when you come home. And those people who drive the pickup trucks and have to work out of town get that experience at least part of every year and look forward to it as just a treasure in this town. So when you're saying development, I agree we should do development. When you talk about community centers or things that are gathering places so that more people will experience this space, more people from out of town, more of the citizens, everybody gets more from it, yes, we need to develop it. But as long as we're trying to figure out how to build buildings on it, we have 80% of the population passionate, truly passionate that building more housing on that property is the wrong way to go. And if you think that it's going to be great because it's going to pay for, you've named sidewalks, you've donated the money somewhere else, I don't know where, scattered it around town, it will disappear so quickly. Versus preserving the property in a way that the community can enjoy it, celebrate this town for generations to come. I just think that there's a different way of looking at an asset. One is sell it and have money. The other is to treasure it. I believe that the people here treasure their home. They're not looking forward to how much more valuable it is so they can sell it in a couple of years. They live here, they love it here, they have no intention of leaving it, and if it got more valuable, they're not looking at it as an asset. They're hoping their kids will stay in this town. There's a lot of us who truly love this little town, and I think that's part of where we're coming from. It's not a question of compromise. It's a question of what we think is the right thing to do. So if we get to the point where we first look at it as a valuable asset to the community, and we do the hard work to figure out how we could put a community center on there. It costs capital, it takes research, it takes a lot of work. Obviously, the art center that didn't happen because they did not have us behind them. Bart, you know, by being able to make a commitment of cash, money turns on. If the town can put up some, then money follows. If you don't have a commitment to something, nobody's going to go and work with a community project on that land. We would have to decide. We'd have to say, okay, we are motivated enough to preserve this property that we are going to invest some of our own money, our time, modify the URP. Then there would be a chance of getting that community center on there. But if we don't step forward and try that first, it will not happen. And I believe that a lot of the people here are afraid that we're going to make some decision to carve up the piece of property before we find out if we can have a community center, can have a truly great community space. And you know, I don't know. I don't know if we're going to succeed, right? I think that housing would be the last choice, but certainly we should start by exploring the things that the majority of the people want before we compromise to the 20% of buildings that we would sell so we could generate some money so we can fix something else in town versus fixing this piece of property. So there's where...
I'd just like to respond to Charlie's point. He talked about the 20% as what could be built for brick and mortar, for lack of a better word, for development. And I look at it a little differently than you, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I don't think 80% of the people want 100% of the HRA left as open space. I think people recognize that there's got to be a little give to get the improvements and the things that you want. The HRA has done a pretty good job of leveraging what we have to garner grants to get improvements in roadways in different areas in town. And that's what we've tried to do all along up to this point, even with the two-way roads. And so if you look at it, we've garnered almost $500,000 in MassWorks grants and another $1 million from the federal government for grants to do the design work for resiliency, new sidewalks, and get the improvements there. Even if there's no development there, that makes sense, but that's not the discussion we're having tonight. But as far as leveraging the development goes, the HRA has $2 million. If you want to do the improvements on that property, the types of improvements that you were talking about, the community center, the arts center, that arts center is a $10 million project. All right, based on the size that they were proposing. You want to do something like that, it's going to take a lot deeper pockets and a lot bigger commitment than the HRA is capable of doing right now. And so I think let me finish, I let you speak. There does have to be a compromise. And so the question is, what's that compromise? I think you've heard it from me repeatedly, and I'm kind of the other side of the coin with a lot of people in here, that you got to give something to get something. And so when you look at the parcels, if you do develop a parcel and you can garner $5, $6, $7 million for that parcel. That $5, $6, $7 million, that's going into the kick with the $2 million the HRA has. That I don't necessarily agree with Charlie's opinion that we cap somebody's sewer bill. I look at it, maybe it should be set up as a trust fund that should be there in perpetuity, generating funds in perpetuity, be plowed back into the property, and looking to get those roadwork grant monies to do the improvements and do the park spaces that we want, and look at the other types of things that citizen presenters have presented of, the amphitheaters and the other stuff. Any one of those proposals that has come before this board, and there's been multiple proposals, a lot of them good, they all cost money, and they do take zoning changes. And when you go to get a zoning change, you need a 2/3 vote, unless it's a housing choice. The housing is a definable asset. Just so you understand, it's a definable asset. People understand how much it will cost to build per square foot, how much it will be worth when it's done per square foot, and the land cost is a direct part of that equation. So that's a given for somebody to understand. And so, to the point of where do you put it, or what else do you want? I've heard all kinds of proposals of we should do this and we should do that, but I don't have a mouse in my pocket and we don't have the money to do it.
So wait, Bart, can I comment?
Well, let me finish.
I spoke, and you're rebutting longer than I spoke, and you aren't hearing all of the other members.
I'm going to hear everybody.
I didn't rebut you. I waited until I had my turn to say my piece. But we are listening to you lecture us on housing again.
Your point of view.
You told yours first. You went first, and then other people went. It's now Adrian's turn where you took over the mic again. Okay?
I will recognize Adrian, but
you're the chairman.
You're interrupting somebody in the middle of it.
You can mansplain to us.
You can call it what you want, but common sense is common sense, and compromise is compromise. It's plus and minus. At the end of the day, it all comes down to plus and minus. I will recognize Adrian, then I will recognize whoever else, but at the end of the day, it's about common sense, and compromise is the key here. Thank you. Adrian, go ahead.
Please let me know if at some point you can't hear me. I think what Charlie said was think outside of the box. Now, I personally don't agree that his proposal is thinking outside the box. I think we've talked one-on-one, Charlie. That's the easiest thing to do. The easiest thing to do in this situation, it's the same thing that Bartley has wanted to do. You sell land, you get money. He's just said it again, right? Like, you sell land, you get money. That is not thinking outside the box. That is doing the simplest thing here. That is the easiest way to move forward. Thinking outside the box is taking an alternative approach. Thinking outside the box is searching out funding elsewhere. That's the hard thing. I understand that some members of this board don't want to do the hard thing, not necessarily because it's hard, just because they see a far easier path and that's what they believe in. But myself and Dan have been pushing for some of these harder things because the possible benefit is so amazing. The possibility to get everything, or to get a lot of things for this community without having to sell public land held by our nebulous entity. The possibility is just huge in that situation, to be able to hang on to this land for future generations and not just sell it so then it's gone. Right, I think I've talked about this previously. Once you transfer land to private ownership, all bets are off, right? Who knows what'll happen in the future once land becomes private. When land is public, it still has, it's the communities. It is the communities, because even if we say, this private land we're selling, but you need to make sure that in the middle of the private land, there's a park. Well, and I think I brought this up in the original draft URP. There were all these, we'll have these housing, and then in the middle there will be a park. Well, one summer here of people coming to the beach and being in privately owned people's backyards, which was meant to be a community space, who knows, then there's a fence on the private land keeping everyone out, and it's not actually community space, and because it was sold to a developer and it's private land now, right? To me, the number one most important thing is keeping these assets, which I think we can all agree they're assets. It's just what we think of these assets. The number one most important thing is to keep these assets, the communities, moving forward. not some random person, not a developer, not a hedge fund group, a VC group that's going around buying all the property, like to keep them the communities. Because once they're gone, once they're sold, that's it, end of story. They're no longer the communities. The community no longer has rights over them. That to me is the most important thing. We've consistently heard, I know we talked about doing nothing on the land. I have very rarely in any of the feedback seen people who want nothing done, who want the lots to remain as they are. That's just like, that's a kind of a false way of reading the feedback, because yes, there have been some people who say, leave it the way it is. They might be joking, but like they do say it, leave it the way it is. That's a minority. Most people want improved, developed open space, not just the parking lots, the dirt that we have right now. And I think the thing, we bring up the surveys. We bring up the one from the 2000s, there was the one from the 90s, there was that recent survey. The results have been consistent if you look at all of these surveys. There's a consistency of prioritizing open space. That is the priority for the community. I know there are some people who say, oh, that's we're not getting enough people, it's always the same people, blah, blah, like, that's why I want to do this survey, this entire town survey, because until we actually get this survey, and perhaps after, there will be people, perhaps on this board, who continue to say, oh, that's not actually what the town wants, because 300 people is not a representative sample, or 600 people is not a representative sample. I would like to remind everybody, though, that 100 people, 200 people, 300 people in this town, sometimes less, is good enough for a warrant. We pass laws in this town with 100 people and call it, well, that's the community has spoken. So why is it the community has spoken for 100 people voting on a warrant article, but when it's 600 people answering a survey, it's, I don't know, not representative. That's just like which one is it? Is 100 people good enough to represent the town? Or is 100 people not nearly enough to give feedback? That's, we can't trust it. We can't trust it. So that is, again, why I am pushing for this survey. So if we do the survey and we get a large turnout on this survey, we can look at the results, and then this board could choose to listen to them or not. I know I came here saying I want what the community wants, and that still stands. And I've yet to see anything disprove me from my path. In all the feedback we've gotten, survey, not survey, new voices, old voices, right? It's pretty consistent. And yeah, I will say, promising that people's taxes will go down or stay the same, that is like a textbook pro-development propaganda like message. That doesn't happen. Did it ever happen when any of these large developments were built in this town? No. Not that I've heard. So who is benefiting? I think I come back to, who is benefiting if we sell lot 1, for example? Who benefits? All right, you have whoever bought it, who's going to make a buck, maybe $1 million bucks, maybe a lot of bucks, who's making a development. You have whoever is lucky enough to move there, they get to live there, right? Do the 80% of people who drive by it every day, 80% of citizens, what do they get? You know, perhaps it's a pot of money that can be used for things, but there's always the dream of, oh, there'll be a pot of money at the end. But what does the reality actually look like? For me, and listening to the citizens, keeping this as a community asset, we keep talking about asset, a community asset versus a monetary asset is the most important thing. And I'm done talking for the moment.
Thank you. So I'd like to respond if I can. The comment is made that if we sell a piece of the HRA, people won't be able to go on it. If you leveraged parcel 1 as a developable parcel, it's approximately 2 acres. And let's just say the two-way roads doesn't happen. And all the rest of the parcels were left open. And the zoning that's allowed on that parcel 1, as it sits by itself, as a matter of right, would allow up to 15 units per acre. That's a little over 2 acres. You could get up to 30 units there. You wouldn't have to get up to 30 units there. You could do something smaller. You could do townhouses or a number of single families. But that would give the HRA the funds to leverage to do the improvements on the rest of the parcel, to create that park and that open space and that venue space. It would put assets to work, and you'd get your cake and eat it too. And that's the part of that I see as compromise. When we first come out with a draft urban renewal plan, we had a big draft urban renewal plan. It wasn't built out as much as could be built out on here, but it was pretty, optimistic, let's say. All right, knowing that we were going to go through this process and go through it and listen to feedback, and it's going to get whittled down and moved around and try to come up with a compromise. But I don't see not having anything that's going to put funds in the HRA's hands to actually do the improvements that need to be done to these parcels as a compromise or accomplishing anything, because we can pursue funding. We've pursued fundings for the roadway project that would create more open space and create this community space and get the improvements, and it's on the table. And people don't want to use the funds that we've chased for the last 15 years. They're actually on the table to do the design. So there's got to be a compromise somewhere. And so if it's, let's not do anything, let's do a survey, and let's hope somebody comes along with a checkbook and does the improvements, I just don't think it's going to happen. That's my personal opinion.
Can I?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so I think there's a gap here, obviously, of communication and understanding. I believe that this piece of property is valuable enough to the state and to our community that the funding as a cohesive 13-acre chunk of land will be far greater than you're going to be able to generate by selling, how many houses? 25 little houses. Now, you don't believe that, but the only way I can prove it is if you give us a chance. And I just want to say my evidence is just circumstantial. I mean, okay, we have the dean of Harvard's, or the head of Harvard's architecture department, so excited about the opportunity to walk the town through the process of trying to develop that property into a gathering place, community place, work with the citizens, and to find the funding and to make this thing a gem, an extension of the experience of open spaces like World's End, like the Emerald Necklace, something that would bring people to Hull, truly just so excited that they just, if this was on Zoom, their firm would be on the meeting. They have been on every meeting for the last, well, not every single one because they actually work for a living, but almost every single meeting they have been on, tagging along, hoping that we would finally agree to do the right thing and that maybe they would get an opportunity to bid on it. I just want to say that I forget which citizen gave me the name of an architecture firm out of LA. They actually grew up here. They're like they do the work for the state park system in California. They are world renowned. They're linked to Woods Hole. They are students of the outfit that I just mentioned before. And again, nationally renowned. I mentioned this, they had their entire organization on a phone call with me to express their interest in having an opportunity to champion such a project and to have a demonstration opportunity of something of this caliber that is so special. They knew the property because they summered here, and it is that known as a special. I've only talked to a handful of people outside, and the excitement over what we could possibly do with this piece of property is amazing. And we're sitting here discussing whether or not we're going to sell it for 25 units. And I'm like, no, not until we explore the other options. Maybe there is just a pipe dream. Maybe this is just going to go up in smoke. But shouldn't we try to find out if there is more money by keeping it and the thing could be turned into a jewel before we figure out how to nice and, as Adrian was saying, the quick and easy solution is to sell it. We generate $5 million. But if we could raise 3-4 times that to create a community center, an arts center, to landscape the thing, to have mobile stage kind of landscaping so that there could be music here. And I don't know. Some of Dennis, who's not with us anymore on the board, but some of his ideas of fire things and piers, or I don't know. I'm not the architect. I'm not the designer. This requires community engagement. It is a process that they do. It's the same kind of process that when you worked with the Cecil Group, that they came up with the architectural drawings. It took years to get it to that point. And I know, and justifiably, I'm annoying because you got so close, but I was elected to get you to go the other way, to convince you to go a different direction. Try it. Try it first. That's what we want to do.
All right, so I am trying. I am trying, and you're sitting there saying that we're going to sell the property. We're talking about selling parcel 1.
That's what I don't want to sell.
Time out, let me finish. I didn't interrupt you. Talking about selling parcel 1, and the rest of it would remain HRA property. And that would put the funds in the HRA's hands to do the things that you're talking about, and bring that. Now you can garner other funds. Let me finish. You can garner other funds. We've been waiting for the DCR to do their master plan since 2014. They had a $60 million master plan. The majority of that master plan money was to fortify the seawall. All the rest of the dog and pony show with the widened boardwalks and the shade structures and all that stuff, that's what it was. It was a dog and pony show. We haven't seen it. The money that you're talking about raising to do this, we're not surrounded by people. We're a peninsula that sticks out in Boston Harbor. We're surrounded by water. We're not a metropolis where there's hundreds of thousands of people that are going to be walking out their door taking public transportation to get to Hull. 9 months out of the year, the reason to come here isn't being used because we're a beach community. Years ago, we had an attraction that attracted people for 5 or 6 months of the year, and you had the attraction. We don't have the attraction. The key is leveraging what we do have and making the assets that we do have better and trying to leverage it in a way that's honest, viable, and feasible. And so when you say that I haven't morphed, I've come from develop the whole thing to develop parcel 1.
No,
and so, you know, you talk about compromise. I've compromised, and I'm trying to compromise. I believe that this should be the gem that you talk about, that everybody here talks about, that it should be that gathering place for the city and the town, for every people to go there. But I'm also a realist. I've been involved down here my whole life. I owned a business here. My family I was brought up here. My brothers and sisters brought their family up here. I know what the town is, and I know economic development-wise, you have to have a reason to come to Hull. Most of the people's reasons that come to Hull, they either want to live here because it's beautiful and they want to live on the water, which I think attracted everybody in this room. And everybody in this room loves the town. Nobody loves it more than you or me or anybody else. I think everybody moved here and lives here because they love the town. But it's recognizing that you have to have something in your hand that's going to put you in a position to leverage and get those improvements done. And so if you have something else that somebody would come in and say, hey, I'll give you $6-7 million to do that amphitheater on there, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I just don't see it happening because it's a major undertaking, major infrastructure, major investment, and it's a bet, and it's not a good bet for a developer. And so when you're looking at developers, everybody, it's a big bad word, the guy's a developer. The guy's rolling the dice. There's no guarantee he's going to make money. But the most definable thing when a developer builds something is housing. They know what it costs to build. They know what the asset's worth when it's done, and they know what the land cost is, so they can build it into the formula. And so I think we have to compromise, and I think we have to do something. If somebody has a better idea that they think that they can get the funding from a private fund source, because I don't think there's somebody parachuting in with suitcases full of money to build a park or put a giant Ferris wheel or build an amphitheater on the HRA in Hull. I've been involved long enough, I know it. It was hard enough to get developers to come here and actually spend money and build a hotel here, and spend money and take on the project where the arcade was, and take on the 23 vacant storefronts that were on Nantasket Beach 15 years ago between Water Street and Atlantic Hill. It took a lot of work. And so a compromise is trying to get the connectivity between the neighborhoods, put a neighborhood back where the neighborhood is, put the big park, the big town common in the middle, make it a gathering place, make it a place where you can have concerts, gatherings, all of those things. But you need the seed money, and we don't have the seed money. We get $500,000 worth of just sidewalk improvements that got to be done. Whether we do anything else or not, the sidewalks that the HRA owns are deplorable. They're a hazard. And, you know, we're spinning our wheels. That's my personal opinion. Charlie, go ahead.
I guess I think that's, you know, that's where, that's the big conundrum. In other words, is the majority of people, certainly in this room, not wanting to sell any of the property? I'm totally coming at it as, I guess a businessman, or if it was me and I'm saying, what do I want? God, I want an amphitheater there, I want a community center, I want open space, I want beautiful landscape, I want all that stuff. And as I looked at it for the first time, I saw a natural break, for lack of a better word. I saw 12 acres to the right of what I would call the Bergen house and the parking lot, and I saw 3 acres, and that's plus or minus, but I saw it's called the Phipps Street parcel number 1 as kind of a standalone spot. And I live right up the street. I grew up in the woods right there, and I'm totally surrounded. I'm one of about 6 houses left up there, surrounded by all the condos. So I'm not a condo guy, but I still look, and it's more for me, can you put 10 single-family homes there? I don't know, but can you put something there because it's an asset, to take that money and say, hey, now we've got $6 million or $8 million, and we're going to make an amphitheater. We're going to have the best summer series concerts. It's that thinking. So it's my out-of-the-box thinking is, what do we do with the money when we have it? And I just am not a believer. I want to see this done. When I got involved and came back, my thought was in 5 years the HRA should dissolve because it will have done its mission. I don't want to wait another 50 years. And so I think that is at least my take on how we can get to what I want, and I think what the townspeople want, and certainly it sounds like the people in this room certainly want, and it's an absolutely beautifully developed large swath of land from the bay to the ocean.
Okay.
Identify yourself, your address.
Man. I think part of the problem in getting to a compromise is process and trust. And nobody wants to compromise if they're not sure that they trust the people they're working with. I think that's part of the problem. I think the people who are looking for open space, so I'm going to say developed open space, believe that there are organizations out there, like maybe the architectural firm that Dan is talking about, like Wildlands Trust, who I know has been mentioned to this board a couple of times. These organizations can raise money, they can get grants, they have people that they go to for funds. I don't think that the Fifth Street lot, I don't think the money, if that gets developed, and I don't know if it will or not, but I'm trying to keep an open mind. If it gets developed, I don't think the money that comes from that lot has to go to develop the open space. I think there are 2 things that could stand on their own. And I don't think that anybody will know the real answer to that until you talk to the people who develop open space. You know development from a real estate perspective, from a business perspective. But nobody has really taken the time to talk to these other organizations to see what they could bring to the table. And I think a good first step, I think you're asking us, or you're asking the rest of your board, to listen to the development point of view, that you use the money from the development to pay for something else in the land. And I think we've heard that loud and clear. And, I think we get it. I think you've done a good job of explaining that. But I think what the other group wants is for you to actually listen and talk to an architectural group that does this work, or Wildlands Trust, to really see how they could help the town get that space that they're looking for. And I don't know, maybe we could have both in the end. I don't think it has to be one that pays for the other, or vice versa. Maybe there's enough room in this thing so that we could have it both. And it could, but whatever happens, it has to happen in concert with each other. what we don't want is something that one thing here, one thing there, one thing there, it doesn't blend with each other. It has to be cohesive because it has to add beauty and charm to our town. So I think that would be a good start. If you could at least maybe speak to Wild Bands Trust or this architectural group and have a private meeting with them. You don't have to do it with the whole board. You just talk to them and see what they have to offer. See if there's a possibility. I mean, I think that would then be sort of moving towards compromise. And I think, and I'm not saying that we couldn't have housing on Fifth Street, and I'm a person who wants developed open space, but maybe we can have both. And I think everybody should have an open mind and say, you know, but I think before we you want people to compromise before they're ready. And I don't think that's going to happen. And I think the way to get people ready to compromise is for both sides to have more information. I think that would be helpful. Yeah. So.
Cindy.
Cindy Borges, Nantasket Avenue. I'm a member of the planning board, but I'm speaking as a citizen. I just want to remind people that there's sort of there's the DCR reservation runs parallel to one. So it's just like, right now there's a natural barrier to where the neighborhood ends and where all of this wonderful stuff could happen. And I don't think it makes sense to put residents right in front of where they want to put their bathhouse so that people are traveling, you know, across from the neighborhoods to the bathhouse, across parcel 1. And then you have to have a new separation of that neighborhood from wherever you want to put over on the other parcels. So I just think that, that you have to remember that it is already sort of a natural barrier there. And I understand that people don't own the views, but these people have had a view for 50 years all along Fifth Street. And, you know, you're just going to put something up there, and it's like, I just don't think that it makes sense to put housing in any part of this space. It's a flood zone. Parts of it are, you know, it's high wind, and there's nothing affordable to me about living in a flood zone for a person. So I think that's,
Bartley, Adrian has her hand up.
Oh, Adrian, I didn't see you. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I agree with you, Bartley, that at this point it does really feel like we are spinning our wheels. You know, you, for 2+ years of my being on this board, have been basically consistent in your message, and myself and Dan have been basically consistent in our message. And we do not see eye to eye on what is valuable, on what is possible. So I agree with you. I'm not sure how we move forward here, but one thing I do agree with Susan Mann is, I believe you said, Susan, that like we're not following a process. We are just kind of stabbing in the dark, basically. There is a process for doing these kinds of things. And I know I have been trying to push for a process, you know, working with someone. I understand in the past you work with form in place and tech and everything, but now we're just kind of flailing about in the dark. For example, if we're talking about lots, right? From my understanding of the flood maps, lot 1 is actually the worst of our entire property in terms of which parcel is like the most environmentally impacted. I do remember coming across a photo of lot 1 being used as an example in one of the, can't remember their name right now, one of those state agencies that deals with climate change. We were the picture, we were the textbook example of like, oh yes, this is a bad flooding area and blah, blah, it would impact the neighborhood, etc. Like, this land has been identified by the state, which leads me to a reminder of that. The state, if we go with urban renewal plan, which we don't have to, but I think we've gone down this road far enough. If we go with an urban renewal plan, this has to be approved by the state. So why are we not listening to state priorities? As I just mentioned, this parcel, this piece, Hull, our section of which usually includes this piece, has been highlighted time and time again by various entities in the state as being like a very important piece of land for climate resiliency, a very, what's the word? A very vulnerable piece of land. Time and time again, I just came across another report like 2 weeks ago that listed this exact land as incredibly vulnerable and needed attention. And so why would the state even approve such a thing as building housing or selling lot 1 to be put housing on when it is a clearly known flooding issue? Now, I know you can say, hey, the entire town is 75%, 80% in the flood zone. We build, baby, build. We just gotta keep going. Who cares? But like, maybe the state won't be in agreement on that. Another point is, Bartley, I've heard you in the past say, past urban renewal plan options, oh, well, if we go much smaller than that, it won't be desirable to a developer. So if we're now, if the plan is now, well, we just sell 1 parcel and it's quite a small development, I guess I would be interested, will a developer actually be interested? Because by your previous statements and logic, like it needs to be a certain size in order to be desirable to a developer. So even if we did sell lot 1 and say, well, I would hope we would do it in an urban renewal plan so we could put some restrictions on it, but like, would a developer even be interested? Because it is such a small project. I believe, you know, for financial reasons, Paragon needed to build a certain number of units to be financially viable. So what would a developer say about just this 1 parcel of land with whatever kinds of restrictions? And then one last thing is, you know, Charlie, I don't disagree with you on the HRA needing to finish their business and be gone. I've been saying that since I joined the board. I would love for us to complete the mission. Granted, the mission has been defined and changed throughout the years, but complete the mission and vote itself out of existence. But unfortunately, I personally don't see that being viable due to us being delayed with the 2-way road plan. So I'm with you in spirit, and I would love to join you on getting this done fast, but we've seen how many years of delays we've now had with the 2-way road plan, and due to our land being immediately impacted, it's very difficult to see how we could even do that, especially if we're talking about preserving open space that would need conservation restriction or some kind of land deed restriction. You can't do that if the state's just gonna come around, from my understanding at least. You can't do that if the state's just gonna come around and say, actually, I need that parcel for my 2-way road plan. So I'm with you in spirit, Charlie. I wish we could get it done. But as I've said many times before, I feel like we're a bit in handcuffs until the DCR decides what they are doing. That does not mean I don't think we should do anything, but it does mean we have time to plan. And that's what I think we should be doing, is actually be following a process. And what is the first thing in a process like this typically? It's a survey, exactly what we're asking to do. So we are moving in a forward direction, even though maybe it does feel, including to myself, that we are spinning our wheels. And that's all. Thank you.
Jim Inieri.
A couple of quick points.
Just identify yourself and your address.
Oh, Jim Inieri, 8 Kenton Ave. First of all, I am encouraged what I'm hearing tonight about more and more folks sound like they want to protect somehow lots 2, 3, and 4 in Bayside. That's encouraging. That, you know, I think there's been a shift toward non-development of that land. Non-development in the sense of building, you know, structures like condos and stuff. So that's good. To echo what Susan Mann had said about, you know, looking at, say, Wildlands Trust or something like it, but Wildlands Trust is a very good example because they really have a long history, a really good track record on the South Shore of in getting involved with these types of, you know, this kind of land. The key is this. Everyone keeps saying, you know, they throw numbers out like $6 million and do this and that. their expertise is to guide towns to get the funding. That's what they do. They know how to get the money. So we should not overlook that. If we have all these ideas, which sounds like we do, to really make that a vibrant community gathering place for what have you, festivals, all sorts of stuff. It's worth the board's while to get educated, find out what's possible by talking to experts who know how to do this like nobody's business. They've been doing it all over the South Shore for years, and they've got a really great track record.
Who's that?
That was it. I'm missing another one, but that's fine. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen.
Ann Murray, 1 Summit Avenue. I think Susan said a lot of what I feel and put it very eloquently, so I won't repeat her points, but a couple of things. I think you're putting the cart before the horse to talk about as much as you want to move forward to work on the urban renewal plan. Until you don't want to believe the past surveys 100%. You seem to think that only people who want all open space are showing up in the room. Well, it's a public meeting. Anyone can show up with any viewpoint. So if there are other people out there, why aren't they here? I really think this townwide survey needs to happen before you start talking about doing this or doing that on any of the parcels. Find out what the people want. If you didn't believe the past ones, then find out what the people want and go forward from there. And it got put off because there was a vacancy. This summer you said, well, let's wait until that seat is filled and then everybody will be at the table and we can talk about the survey and move that forward. Well, the vacancy's been filled, so focus on the survey and move that forward. I think that should be the priority right now. I really do believe the other thing that was talked about this summer, and again, there was a vacancy, let's wait until that person's on the board so they get the full picture at the same time as everyone else, was to have some of the groups, and like Jim said, Wildlands trustees of reservation, whoever else you want to have, to talk about the funding. You keep saying, how are you going to pay for it, Ann? How are you going to pay for it? But you're not willing to have the people in who may be able to direct you on how you're going to pay for it. So why aren't you taking the time now, while you're working on the survey, to also have that focus on getting those people in who can give you another viewpoint? It makes sense. Let's hear the other side of the argument. If selling the land is the easy way to do it, what's the other options? And I know it can happen because I worked in Duxbury, and Wildlands Trust did a lot of stuff down in Duxbury. I see a real conflict with putting up any sort of housing. I've been around for a long time. I followed this since at least the 80s, a little bit before that, but not as much. And I know after 2 years, when they had pretty definite plans for one of the projects, suddenly the people who lived on 5th Streets were like, what? Nobody told us. And what happened? No way HRA came out in force. So I'm concerned that's going to happen again. If you just say, okay, let's lop off parcel 1 and start building a development there, those people on 5th Street are going to show up again the same way and be all upset about it. Mm-hmm. And I think you need to get a townwide survey so you have something to back you up to say, this is what people wanted, okay? A buy-in from all the stakeholders. And I also do think that residential next to public space like that is an accident waiting to happen and a conflict. Because the problem is, people see a unit, oh, it's a beautiful scenic spot, but until they live there, they don't know what it's like with traffic, with noise, with everything else. And if you're going to have more activity in that open space, that's going to be a cause for concern. I mean, look, it happened at Horizons. They built Horizons, they knew that was all arcade and shopping and whatnot, and then the beer garden came in, and the people in Horizons weren't happy. You can't blame them. Same with Ocean Place, when they started having music on the patio for one of the restaurants there. It's not a good mix, it's oil and water. So my concern is to try to build a development and then have all those people up in arms that you're going to have noise. Same thing you talk about, well, you could sell a parcel and it could be two, $1 million houses. If I got multi-millions, I'm not going to want to build it where, yeah, I get sunset views and I might get some ocean views, but I also get a parking lot view, and then I get mass humanity walking through my front yard. I'm going to go somewhere where I have a view and I don't have that. So to me, it's just a conflict waiting to happen. So I really would urge you, focus on the survey and get the environmental wildlands or whatever group you want to do, 2 or 3, to give some advice to this board and to everyone in the room. I don't know what you can fund with it, but they're the experts. Let's hear from them.
Gentleman behind, Ann.
Thank you. Steve Bowman, H Street in Hull. I'm a Hull resident, also a Hull business owner. I own South Shore Taco on Nantasket Ave, and just recently took over the convenience store next door and also Cool Breeze Ice Cream on the corner. And my family and I are prepared to open all 3 businesses year-round. We're trying to give to the community right now so that we can have more going on in Hull year-round. I think that a lot of businesses close up. They see this as a seasonal town, and my family sees this as a year-round town. So we're going to be doing business in this town 12 months out of the year out of 3 establishments. That's not why I'm here to promote the business. But regardless of that, first off, just to have a room full of people that have a passion for something is an amazing thing to see. When people come out and they serve on a board, and when people come out, whether they're online or in a meeting, it's an amazing thing to see, because that means that everyone here has a passion for something. And at the end of the day, we all have a passion for the same exact thing, which is the town of Hull. Now, if you're a redevelopment person, if you're an arts person, if you're open, whatever it is, we all have passion for the same thing, and it's this town. And so when I hear the word compromise, I don't hear it as a bad thing or something that someone has to give in or give into what maybe they don't want to do. I think compromise is an important thing to everyone collaborate together. My C word is collaborate, because I came here tonight because what I want to do is I want to collaborate with the town. I want to collaborate with the HRA. I want to collaborate with every resident that came in here tonight to speak, to be heard, to be listened to. I have a bunch of different ideas that I'm going to bring to this board at some point in the next couple of weeks or months. I think there's some very, very interesting things that we can do. Let's leave the redevelopment for the side. Let's leave the road to the side. Like, there's a lot of things that are going to take some time to figure out, and this board right now needs to figure some of that stuff out and wade through that. But let's talk about what we can do right now as a community. We have space, we have land where we can do things on a weekly and a monthly basis. I started about 3 weeks ago a group of local business owners, so it's not just me sitting here. I have about Steve Greenberg, who's sitting next to me, is part of my group, and there's a bunch of business owners that want to see more go on in this town, because we want to bring people in for positive reasons beyond the beach. We need foot traffic here. We need people to see what an exciting town that we live in. So why, and I said it to Charlie, and I said it to other people that I've met, why are we allowing the town of Hingham to have a farmer's market on a Saturday in a parking lot behind a train station, when we have one of the most beautiful pieces of land in the entire state? We should be having a farmer's market, a flea market, craft fairs, holiday festivals. We should be doing that. And what we need to do is we need to collaborate. So instead of sitting here and going butting heads with each other, we have to realize, like, the ultimate use of this property, the ultimate reason we should be here is to make our community better, to make our town better, to make more people want to come here, to visit us, to shop here, to shop at my restaurant, to get coffee at the gentleman who just opened a coffee shop down the street, to get a haircut, to go to the parent, to go to these businesses that are open year round. We want people to come to Hull, and we have the perfect opportunity, the perfect space to do that and provide it. And so what I'm coming to you folks tonight is to say, I have a group of local business owners that are ready to collaborate with the HRA, with the residents, with other business owners, and with the town officials that work in this building every day. And I think if we sit back, take a step back and say, let's collaborate together and come up with something special. We can have every single weekend from spring to summer to fall, even in the winter. There's no reason that we can't have festivals there. There's no reason that we can't do it. I was the one that mentioned to Charlie about having a music festival. If you think that we can't do a small music festival there, then come talk to me for 10 minutes, because I'll tell you exactly how we can do it, because I know. You just have to think and plan and organize and collaborate. So that's the only reason I'm here tonight, just to say, let's get together, let's get on the same page, let's do something fun, exciting, and something that we can all be proud of as residents and business owners and people that are here, because you're all passionate. Everyone here is passionate, and everyone's here for a reason. And I want to be a part of that, and I hope that you guys all want to be a part of that too. And I'll shut up because I like to talk, so I've taken up enough. But yes, that's we're going to present some ideas in the coming weeks, and I definitely want more feedback. We want more people involved. We want this to be a really something big and exciting for the community in general. So
thanks for speaking up.
Thank you.
Hi, Mike Whitney, Manaman Ave. I didn't plan on talking tonight, so I'm going to be all over the place. I apologize. The notion of developing and then funding the open spaces is great, but what I didn't hear was the vision thing. What happens to this board? What happens to this organization if you do put that, develop Fifth Street, and you develop the open space? Are you now effectively the Hull Parks Commission? Are you the open space? When does the HRA finally go away if the town accedes to what you're trying to do?
In my mind, and I can't speak for the whole board, but I agree with Charlie. If we accomplish our mission, then the HRA has done the job that it needed to do. And if we have funds set up before we ride off into the sunset, so to speak, my personal opinion, and like I said, I can't speak for the board, my personal opinion is that we should leverage those funds so that's always there to help improve the town and keep the principal. If you've got a pot of money and you can earn 5% or 7% a year on that pot of money, keep the principal in place. And even if you did something where you said, hey, we're not going to touch the principal for the first 5 years, till you build that pot of money up so it's got a critical mass. And now that funding's there every year, year in and year out, to benefit the community and benefit that space, to maintain the space. Because obviously, if there's a large park space there, it's going to have to be maintained. You're going to have the funds to maintain it. You're going to have the wherewithal to maintain it. And I don't know that the town's going to say, hey, with open arms, hey, you guys developed this great park space. Here you go, maintain it. I'd like to think that they would, but I don't know that and everything's cyclical. Markets are cyclical, economies are cyclical, and so in my mind, and like I said, I'm speaking for myself, if we would accomplish the mission, we take the pot of money and we put a trust fund in place that's there to benefit community development related activities in the town of Hull and hold on to the principal.
Well, you're already there. You've got $2 million in the bank. Why not dissolve now, start your trust fund, give $2 million to endow the park?
Okay, well, you don't need to any of that. All right, we've already had the Wildland Trust come in and explain that they were interested in preserving it. So they're like the trustees of reservation, only they do stuff along the South Shore. They're quite a large organization. They've already seen this. As soon as we decide what we're doing, if we want to set some aside, they have endowments and they will maintain it. We do not need to go and sell any property to put it into some, I mean, we could, and we could donate the money to the Wildlands Trust because they've got this trust. but essentially they'll take it over, manage it in perpetuity, just like the trustees of reservation do World's End. So this whole, we got to maintain it or anything, if we can figure out what to do with it, we can get it developed. They said, this is the kind of thing we do here on the South Shore. This is a special place. We would really be happy to take it over. They also, as someone mentioned before, they also help us walk through. They help communities get to the point where they could take it over, so that it, you know, because they don't take over a piece of property that still has to be developed. Once it's done, we don't need to have the board here to manage the trust or anything else. They already have the system in place to run the thing. But they also provide another service, that is, get us to that state. And that has to do with a joint community effort. It starts with a survey. All of them say the same thing. I mean, you can, Cecil Group said it when you're developing a road. There's a process. You get the community input, you keep the community involved, you walk through the process, you use design so that the community understands your options. There are visuals. That's why it's often an architecture firm is associated with it. You used, who did you use? Tech or somebody? Anyhow, they've got a website where they brag about the designs of the redevelopment thing. So the community is brought along. You get to the point where the community compromises, because you can't build everything. You can't put everything on this. It's only 13 acres. So at some point, the HRA doesn't get crucified because we brought the community all the way along. The majority all agreed. When we finally do make the decision, we've got the town behind us, or at least they know how we got there, and they've already argued among themselves, and all we are is an administrative organization. That is how these things succeed. That is not how I believe we're moving forward. This is the process that Adrian is talking about, that if we use the process, it can solve itself. Do we need to sell some? I hope not. I'm not the expert. We haven't went through the funding sources that are available at the state that people have told me are plentiful, and in this particular piece of land, because of sustainability, because of vulnerability, because it's abuts the state park, the first oceanfront park south of Boston, the only, if we do it right, the only beachfront park. Okay, ocean beachfront park. This could be okay, and they do want to do the boardwalk, but. And it's taking forever, but that same forever is this two-way road plan. It's all that is what's linked together. So when we say they're slow, yet we want to do something that is totally linked to them, if we link with the DCR, then we have one more thing that is going to mean that we're more likely to get state funding. Okay, I mean, there's just so many avenues.
No back and forth, please.
Well, just let me finish then. I mean, I'll finish where I started. You've got $2 million. You've got the endowment. You can take all of this fighting away. Just give up. It's been 50 years. Urban renewal is generally regarded as a huge mistake. And I'm sorry that it hasn't worked. And, you know, at the end of the day, this is not going to be a net positive tax generator, most likely. If someone can put numbers in front of me, I'll believe you. But I keep asking the board, and nobody ever responds to those things I put into your site.
Until the board gets to a point where they agree on a concept, it's tough to put numbers on the table. Time out. When we had a concept on the table, the board hired a firm to come in and tell us what the economic benefit would be for the town. And I did it on the back of a napkin. I got to tell you, my back of the napkin analysis was as good, if not better than theirs. But the board decided that we'd be relinquishing our negotiating position if we released those numbers. And so that they didn't get released. And that was based on the draft urban renewal plan. So I think it takes both to do it. I don't think $2 million is enough to do what needs to be done on that parcel. Like I said, there's $500,000 worth of sidewalks that need to be done that are our responsibility right now. Okay, and that's no improvements on there. And then to the point of all the other types of activities that are going on there, not only do you have to look at the parcel and what the potential is, you have to turn around, identify what you'd want to use it for, what types of uses you want. Then you have to go to town meeting, and you need to get a zoning change to allow the uses that you're proposing. And it takes 2/3 vote of those uses. And just like somebody said, the people don't want housing because it's going to, the No Way HRA group. If somebody comes in and says they want to put an amphitheater there and there's going to be traffic, you're going to have those zoning changes. They're not a slam dunk. Everything that we're doing is trying to get to a point where we have a plan on the table that's acceptable to the majority of the people, and using the tools that are in the toolbox that we have to garner the leverage that we can use to make something happen. It's been 60 years, and everybody's saying, oh, take your time. I don't want to take my time anymore. I've been elected 7 times to do the job I'm doing. I think we as a board have to step up to the plate. We can talk about doing surveys. Before we get down the road of the survey, I think options should be on the table so people that are taking the survey understand what the ramifications of the choices that they're making are. I think they got to know, if you do A, does B happen? What are your options? What are the benefits and what are the negatives? I don't think it's just, oh, should it be open space? Everybody's going to be open space. I'm in favor of open space. You ask blanket questions, you get blanket answers. I think we, as a board, and this is what we're elected to do as a board, is to come up with some sort of plan that says, let's look at this, and this is what we're thinking. And then, if you want to do a survey and garner the input based on you have a product on the table, that's the process we did embark on. Everybody keeps talking about process. We embarked on the process in 2022, 2023 during COVID, and that was the process we were on. And then an election happened, everything changed, and the process stopped. And it's been back and forth, back and forth. I'm perfectly willing to compromise, but I think handing over the largest asset that's open space that the town has over to Wildlands Trust without a plan in place from us that's not going to bring a positive to the town economically, bring in housing, I don't think that works. And as an elected member of this board, I will fight tooth and nail until somebody beats me in an election. But I know in my heart what we're trying to do is the right thing for this town. I know everybody in here believes in their heart that they're doing what's right for this town. But we as a board, these 5 members, are the ones that have to make the decision and move forward. And we got to look at what the tools are in the toolbox, what are the regulations that govern it, and what regulations can be changed to accomplish those goals. Because there's 30 different ideas of what to do on that property. They're all good ideas, but are they going to get the support? Are they going to get the zoning change? Is there going to be funding there to do it? You know, that's the key. I've seen it my whole life. I've watched it my whole life. I've watched that strip deteriorate since 1985, since they tore Paragon Park down. The improvements that you're seeing, and some of the designs I'm not a big fan of some of the designs that were done down there, but I'll tell you what the big improvement is. They're not boarded up, dilapidated buildings anymore. And 15 years ago, 23 empty storefronts, 13 boarded up, dilapidated buildings. This is the last major asset on that strip, and to do it right and accomplish the goal, that's the mission. And so I'm focused on accomplishing the mission, and I think it's this board has to make the decision. I'm hoping we can.
Jerry Torona, 6 7th Street, speaking as a private citizen, but I am a select board member. I think I got here late, I apologize, but I think it's important to, it sounds like this room is largely filled with people that would prefer to see open space. I do respect that. I think that's a very noble request or an idea for that land, but I've watched for the last 2 years, there's been presentations on all different kinds of ideas. So there's been a process the last 2 years that's been followed to try to come to some, and I don't think a great, phenomenal design has come forward from that. It's a little frustrating. So the process is very, very slow. And for me, that's what's frustrating. And if you back up quite a bit, it's been going on for decades. I think the important thing, and I'm very open about my opinion on this, is, and again, I grew up here, and I'm stating this as fact, the vast majority of the people I speak to and I represent it's understood that piece of land was developed, 76 homes were taken by eminent domain and businesses to be redeveloped, and that was the purpose. Now, we may have changed. I respect that. I think if the town votes to change and tells town officials that they want that open space, and that's a mandate from the people, it's done at town meeting. I see a survey as a good indicator of what the public wants and something to respect in that light, but that's not how we vote. That's not how we make decisions in any capacity in this town or in anywhere else. So I would respect a survey, certainly, but I can tell you a lot of the people, again, that I speak to and I represent, they just see this as going round and round in circles for decades with no end result. And it's very frustrating. So again, I think a survey is a good idea to get, the pulse of the people. But at the end of the day, I'm going to be honest with you, if I was in your shoes, and I really respect the passion and the fight for this cause, because again, I do believe it's noble, to me, I would take it right to town meeting in a citizen petition and say, we want this land kept as open space, and if the people vote for it, then they vote for it. I don't know that it'll happen. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't think it would pass. But I don't, this is the problem I have, is I don't see the mechanism for making a final decision here. I don't, even if this board comes to a vote and a decision and tries to move it forward, it's still a question to me, where does it go to next? Who has to sign off on it? Who approves it? It seems like it's just a very cloudy process.
I can answer it. This board chooses a direction. Whether it's an urban renewal plan, there's a set process with an urban renewal plan. If this board were to come together and come with a compromise plan for an urban renewal plan, the next step would be presented to the select board and the planning board. They'd have, the select board would have to endorse it to move it on to the state. The planning board would look at it and make sure it meets the zoning qualifications. And if we needed a zoning change to go forward with that plan, we'd have to go to town meeting to get a zoning change. Then at that point, it would go to the state, to the new Executive Office of Livable Communities, which used to be DHCD. And so they'd have to endorse the plan, and it would have to check all the boxes for the urban renewal plan. If this board chose to say, hey, we're going to do an RFP, and we said we're going to put an RFP out for parcel X, and on parcel X, this is what the zoning allows, and this board wants this on the parcel. Never mind what the zoning allows. We want less than what the zoning allows. We're eligible to do that as a board, and we could vote to say that's what we want to do, and we can do that. And then we go through that process, and if we designated a developer to develop parcel X, they'd develop parcel X, and they'd go through the process with the planning board, permitting, Conservation Commission, and they'd go through that whole process. That's the process that Chatham Rail Properties followed years ago in 2006 through 10, and then they walked away because of a bad economy. So there's mechanisms to make it happen. The first step is this board coming to some sort of agreement on a direction. Until that happens, we will spin our wheels.
Ms. Kelly, last thing real quick. If the goal of many people in town is to have open space views front to back, to me, it would seem to make more sense to develop something on the outskirts, on the left and right, to leave as much land in the middle wide open for that reason.
Makes sense to me. Adrian, go ahead.
Thank you so much. And thanks for clarifying that process. It's a good reminder for everyone of the process that we have to follow. I do want to note, though, that multiple times in this meeting, the mission or goal has been continually referenced as some known entity by everyone. Oh, the HRA's mission, the HRA's mission. I'd just like to remind everyone that, and I'll read actually from Hull Special Town Meeting, 1961. It is hereby determined that a redevelopment authority is needed for A, the purpose of clearance of substandard or decadent areas, and B, engaging in an urban renewal land assembly and redevelopment project. That was the mission, according to Special Town Meeting that kicked this all off. This may be repeat information for some people who have heard me give this slideshow before, but I feel like I need to remind everybody, because the term mission and goals that everyone keeps talking about, those were made up by this board. Those were not handed down to us in our decree from the state, from the federal government. What I just read there, that is from Hull Special Town Meeting creating this authority. So A, the purpose of clearance of substandard or decadent areas. We did that. It happened. That did happen. It was cleared. B, engaging in an urban renewal land assembly and redevelopment project. That is our mission. And look at how vague that is. To remind people again who've seen this slideshow before, it was in 1965, 4 years later, that the first Hull Redevelopment Authority voted on new goals. They looked at the town in 1965 and they decided to vote some additional goals and missions for themselves. This was on top of what they were already given by the federal government. And just quickly, there were 3 of them: the reduction in long-term stabilization of taxes by generating additional sources of revenue for the town of Hull, 1. 2, the improvement of business activities in Hull, and 3, the achievement of higher market values for properties of Hull. Those were the goals in 1965. That is what that board in 1965 decided. That wasn't part of their original mission. They decided, looking at their town, looking at what they were given, these were their goals. And then if we look at the goals that are currently on our website, they were voted on by this board. I'm not 100% sure when, but at some point in the last 10 years before I was on this board. So the goal, the mission that you see, the mission that keeps being alluded to, that was voted on and created by this board to justify the project. We could easily change our mission or go back to our original mission of the vague thing of doing an urban renewal plan or whatever I just read. Like, we choose what our mission is. As I've brought up many times, we are obligated to do absolutely nothing. I'm not saying we should do nothing. I'm just saying we are not obligated to do a particular thing according to the state, according to the federal government. All those obligations ended a long time ago. And so the fact that we keep referring to this mission or goal, we could very easily change that mission or goal any day and vote on it, just like they did in 1965 and just like this board did at some point in the last 10 years. So when we throw around that, it's our mission, we're fulfilling our mission, we just made that up. We could change it. So I just would like to remind everybody about that. Thank you.
I would love
Your name and your address.
Kim Draper, 7 Standish Road. I would love it if the HRA would please get that design group from California and the Wildlife Inn and have a presentation from each one so that we can be informed about what the possibilities are instead of just talking about development. Thank you.
Sarah Ventulo, 902 Nantasket Ave. I feel like tonight we have had a more solid and constructive conversation than we have in quite a while. It's an extremely emotional conversation for everyone. I feel as though, memories of families who lost their homes, hope for revitalization, the differing visions for open space. Before these decisions are made, we also need to talk about data, the measurable impact of Hull's infrastructure, finances, and long-term sustainability. So population density and capacity, according to the census, the density is 3,500 to 4,500 per square mile. Massachusetts average is 900 per square mile. That means Hull is already 4 to 5 times denser than the state average, despite being one of the smallest towns by land area. So by adding new housing, that would further strain that limited land and public services that the town is trying to build out. The infrastructure strain, water. The Ware River water system, it has recently announced rate hikes to fund the Strawberry Hill Tower, and Paragon, whatever it's called, had to look for other resources because there wasn't the supply that was needed. The sewer and electric are aging and near capacity. The emergency services, any additional development increases the demand on Hull's already lean fire and police departments, requiring more personnel, more vehicles, and equipment. These costs are not hypothetical, and they will fall directly on the residents through higher taxes and utility rates. The fiscal reality. The 2026 tax rate just came out and has increased. Historically, tax rates have never decreased, even when the tax base grew, meaning development does not translate into lower taxes. Each new development, Paragon, Aquarium, has required infrastructure support that the town pays to maintain. The pattern suggests that adding more residents will raise, not lower, our long-term operating costs. The existing development, the Aquarium condos, 21. Paragon, 132 units, plus smaller projects along that Tasket Ave where the Coast Guard houses were, and many large construction, single-family constructions that are 4,500 square feet on non-conforming lots with creative uses, ways to find the land to build those. That's 150 new residential units in the past, 2 to 3 years. It's the highest in recent years. We're already adding new housing faster than most towns our size. Planning and transparency. Hull's master plan update is still in progress. Major development decisions should not move forward until the plan's data and projections are finalized. We have an economic development committee that has not reported yet. Residents deserve this transparency. How many new homes are already approved or under construction? The cost of consultants, mediators, the guided public input systems, the surveys we've already done. We're not, and it sounds like we might be moving forward tonight, but I want to remind everyone that we're not making constructive data points to make constructive decisions. Affordability and equity, we need affordable or senior housing because they can no longer afford the tax that is on town. People who grew up here can no longer afford to live here. We've discussed repurposing existing properties or adaptive reuse of vacant buildings to meet those needs. That's a goal and a need that we have. We should focus there. Joan has had some suggestions there. True revitalization means sustainable beauty and livability, not density for its own sake. I got more. The cost of construction disruption. How long will these main roads be closed for access, water, and sewer upgrades? What is the economic impact to local businesses and residents during that time? We need those clarity of points to avoid risk. Hull has a finite footprint, limited infrastructure, and one of the highest population densities in Massachusetts. Building on HRA land would compound the town's fiscal and environmental pressure without evidence of lower taxes, meeting the housing needs, or align with long-term planning goals. Before we do more, let's understand what we already have. Let's use data, not emotion, to protect the character and affordability of our town.
Thank you, Barb. Susan Vermelia, East Street. I just want to make 2 quick points, and then I want to do a back of the napkin financial thing. So the first thing is what I've been hearing from a lot of people in town is that we're losing our recreation. We need more recreational opportunities for people to come into town. We've got visitors coming in, and they're like, there's nothing to do here. Well, you've got an opportunity here to create something there. And then, what's the second one? The back of the napkin. So on the back of the napkin, you said if you sold off that first parcel, it would be about $6 million. So that's $6 million. That amounts to about $600 per person. That would be a one-time income to the town. And if you put it in a fund, there would be no money coming back to the residents of the town. Then, the next thing is well, we're going to get tax revenue. So when you look at tax revenue, what you said earlier is maybe 30 units on the 2 acres. So if you look at the taxes that came in from the Procopio project, which is 135 units, my understanding, and you've got to correct me, is that the taxes that were estimated to come in from that were between $300 and $500. And so if this is a quarter of that, then we're talking $100,000 to $200,000 of income per year. That kind of income we're already getting from the parking revenue. And so what is the real net impact? I mean, then you've got to add in all the infrastructure costs that go along with it, police, fire, safety, all of this on top of traffic. And so when we're looking at these things, you've got to really look at the economics. Does this really make economic sense? One other point that I can't remember it, anyways, so, you know, when you're looking at these, let's look at the economics of this and say, does it make sense? Because when you, the second point is that if there are people in this town that want to build on that land, why aren't they here? A lot of people in here are clapping when there are comments about, you know, doing something beautiful with the land and not selling it to developers. And so that's meaningful, that if people really wanted that land built out, they would be here speaking up. And so the opportunity to come to this meeting is for everyone. And so this is really telltale. And so I hope that you will explore these other options. You spent a lot of time exploring development proposals, housing, convention center, hotel. And I think you've got to give equal opportunity to the other things that could be possible on that land and could be a wonderful asset for Hull. Yes.
Just to respond to the economic impact, the Procopio project is a $60 million project. The tax revenue from that $60 million project just on property taxes alone will be over $600,000 a year. That doesn't include excise taxes from all the vehicles from the people that live there. It does not include the economic benefit of all the people that live there. They're going to go to the restaurants, they're going to go to the shops, they're going to go to the stores, and they're going to spend money in town. They're going to bring their friends here. That's economic impact. The economic impact that we're getting from the beach and the beachgoers, and you talk about strain on services, when you have 1,000 cars parked on the HRA and they're packing a cooler and going to the beach and going to the beach, they're straining our services. When you talk about traffic, those people, when they're leaving the beach, they're causing the traffic problem. And so when you talk about something being done on parcel one, if it was 30 single-family homes, 30 units, say, and they're worth $1 million a piece, because that's what the going rate is down there. You're looking at $30 million worth of development. That's about $300 grand a year in tax revenue. That doesn't include excise taxes. That doesn't include the ancillary taxes and the money spent in town. That's economic development. The other part, you're having functions down there, people coming into town. They come to the town for the function, they leave. You have a festival, they leave. It's good to bring here. They do go to the restaurants. But the restaurants and all these other businesses, they're amenities to an attraction. The beach is an amenity to an attraction. We don't have an attraction. So either we're a bedroom community or we define an attraction and build an attraction to bring people here year-round, and that's economic development. And so you can talk about the infrastructure needs and all that stuff. The sewer department has more capacity than we need. They're looking at bringing Cohasset and Situate on board for sewer capacity because we get more capacity than we need. But the system itself is always going to need maintenance. It's always going to need upgrading. It's 50 years old. We're going through a $30 million upgrade on the whole system right now. That's where the money's going there. As far as the water system goes, you can't build anything unless you can have water. Hingham's building like crazy. We're on the same water system as them. But Hull shouldn't build because we don't have water, but Hingham will continue to build. That doesn't make sense to me either. All right, the electrical system, big deal. We're pushing up on what we're gonna need electrically, and at some point the town's gonna have to do something about that. One of the things that should be done, and I'm not on the HMLP, there should be a moratorium on allowing buildings to come in and make 100% electrical, heat units, cooking, hot water heaters. All the incentives are to incentivize electrical use, and we're pushing up against our ceiling on that. We shouldn't be incentivizing that. We should be disincentivizing that for the town of Hull. And the reality is, you got to give a little to get a little. If we don't have the 1,000 cars parking there, we're not going to have that traffic problem. We're not going to have that strain on the infrastructure. We're not going to have that strain on services in the summer. I've been around here a long time. I know the numbers, and I know how it works. So, you know, you can make all these arguments plus and minus, and you can talk about density, but every 12 hours, the town doubles in size when it goes to low tide. Everybody comes here because they want to walk the beach. That's the open space. They have the beach. You look out at the ocean, it's all open space. That's why people are drawn to the ocean. If you look at the world, 80% of the world's population lives in the coastal plain. Why? Because they all want to be at the ocean. You're looking at density compared to the rest of the state of Massachusetts, of course it's half. But, you know, Cindy, go ahead.
City Board just Ave. The way I understand this new 10th edition building code, everything needs to be electric heat now. Is that correct?
Nope.
Okay. It's just recommended?
If you're a stretch community, there's further incentives, but we're not a stretch community. And there's further expenses, especially when you get into town projects.
Okay. And I just wanted to address how people in this room are regarded as open spacers. You know, it's not wrong to want open space for a community. Nobody really here has said they want 100 open space. What we want is a vision of what open space could look like. One of the people in this room had an article a year or two ago in a town meeting, and in response to that, the HRA board at that time filed a preliminary subdivision that was not properly filed, and then stood at town meeting and told the proponent that they weren't able to pursue theirs because there was a freeze in place. There was never a freeze in place for the HRA property. Okay, it was assumed by some people, but it never was. Okay, so let's just put that on the record.
That's wrong, but you go ahead. I'll explain it after you're done.
Okay, and then the people at Hall have been really generous with money. So if you could come up with a plan or the Wildlands Trust that has an amount of money that they would like, the town just voted $17 million to help our sewer system, to help the infrastructure for this town. They vote over and over again for different projects for this town that they want to see fulfilled. The paving, the dump. There's a lot of things that they contribute money for that don't actually end up happening. But to say that like you could sell that for $5 million, I think that that's an insult really to the people of Hull, that $5 million is like worth giving up that whole area for it.
It's not the whole area. We're talking about one parcel.
Okay, and then I think it was, back when we had this, we were called obstructionists, okay, and 100% open spacers. I think most of us in this room are none of that. Okay, so I would really appreciate if you could stop explaining that we are, we don't want to see anything there. Nobody has ever said that. And then when the citizens were asked to come forward with their proposals, there was all these requirements put on them that they should have funding, they should have a plan in place of how they're going to fund this, how they're going to maintain it. The HRA hasn't been able to come up with that for themselves. Thank you.
So just to clarify, the HRA never said you have to have funding. The question may have been asked, how are you going to fund what you're trying to do? Nobody ever said you have to have funding. And as far as the comment about this preliminary subdivision, somebody proposed a zoning change that would have restricted any development on the HRA, and the HRA filed a preliminary subdivision plan, which freezes the zoning, and it froze it until town meeting. We didn't come up with a second part of it because it didn't pass at town meeting anyway. So that's what happened. So, we can go back and forth and go tit for tat. And then as far as calling people open spaces and everything else, I've been the subject of a lot of character assassination and misinformation on social media, on articles writing about me and what I've done. And so for you to sit here and say what you just said, I take umbrage to it, because I'm standing here doing what I think is right for the town. I'm an elected member of this board. I've been elected 7 times. I'm going to continue to do what I think is right for the town. But if you want to pitch, you got to be able to catch. If you're going to throw darts, I'm going to throw them back. That's the way it works.
Last comment, please. We need to be clear on that preliminary subdivision, okay? It was not filed properly. The proper information was not with it. It was not filed properly. It was never frozen. If you have some other way of showing something different, please do. Thank you.
Preliminary subdivision was filed. It buys you 90 days. The 90 days got us to town meeting. The zoning change didn't happen. We didn't have to go the extra step. We didn't. Done. That's how it worked. When somebody turns around and tries to rezone a piece of property, they try to rezone a piece of property when you're in the middle of a process just to cut the legs out from under it. That's what happened. Adrian, go ahead.
Thank you so much. I just reviewed the notes, and Cindy is correct. It was improperly filed, and we knew that. We did know that. We used the wrong maps. We used maps for property that didn't exist to file that original subdivision. We were using the post two-way road plan maps. So we subdivided lands that didn't actually exist yet, and we knew that, and we were going to correct it when we filed it again. So just, whatever the history of it all, I actually don't even know if I was on the board, but like this board knew that that subdivision was probably most likely improperly filed because it used the wrong maps. I just went back in all the notes. So just let the record show for that.
Just let the record show. A preliminary subdivision can show it the way it's proposed to be. That's why it's called a preliminary subdivision. The subdivision isn't in place, it's preliminary, it's a plan. And that was what the plan was based on a two-way road system. So you can do that.
There's no two-way.
Right, and yet all our conversation at the time was us knowing that we had done it wrong and we were going to do it differently when we did it again. That's fine, the minutes all exist.
When you
All
file
recordings exist.
when you file a preliminary subdivision, that's preliminary. When you go the next step and make it the actual subdivision, you got to have all those other pieces in place. That's why it's preliminary.
Okay. We can go back and look at the notes at some point. But my second point is, I have to say, bringing up, I don't know if I actually heard the term open spacers. That's a new one for me. Kind of sounds like astronauts or something. But this is actually something I have a huge issue with. We live in a democracy. And our democracy, our elected representatives, our people who work in our government are always telling citizens, get involved, we need you, get involved. If you're passionate about something, get involved. And it really drives me a little crazy when I consistently hear elected members of various boards and positions in this town speak so negatively about a group. Yes. Because they're involved. It blows my mind that people are so passionate that they form a group, that they volunteer their time. What are they getting for it? They're just getting, talked negatively by their elected representatives. So I personally, you will never see me, even if they disagree with me, thank you for coming and giving your opinion, because this is a democracy. We're all supposed to show up if we're passionate about something. That is what we are taught to do. And I have to say, I have also noticed an incredible amount of negativity toward organized groups who take the time to organize. And it really just makes me sad. And it's not just from this board that I've seen it, but I've seen it from other boards in this town speaking negatively about a group just because they formed a group because they cared enough. I will never get over it. That's all. Thank you.
Susan Familia, then we're going to wrap it up. We got other business to attend to tonight.
One suggestion, is there a possibility to make a motion tonight to start exploring the other things that have been brought up tonight? I know in August you all had agreed to bring in wildlands, and while you were waiting for Charlie to come on board, and so to be able to get something tonight, is there an opportunity to motion to start exploring some of these other things while you're doing the survey? And that way you've got data from both scenarios.
Yes. That would be good.
I'm sure we can bring wildlands in. I don't know that we need a motion. We've had wildlands in the past, and so I'm not against bringing wildlands in. But I go back to, I think it's this board's duty to come up with a compromise and put something on the table so we have something that we have a direction we're going to go. I'm not against bringing wildlands in, but to bring them in, just to bring them in, I don't think.
Can I comment on that? They were asked to come in with a caveat that they didn't really explain how they could help us get where we were going. Dennis put road, I don't know, like in a bowling alley, so they were allowed to only present part of who they were and what they could do. So in fact, it was really just a meet and greet. There was supposed to be a follow-up with them. Same with, we had Dolman in, and they, again, there was edges to what they were allowed to present because there was supposed to be a follow-up, and we didn't because we were bantering. Well, honestly, I think we didn't because we were dealing with the parking and all the business that we deal with so much of the year, and then we never had them back. So it would make sense to get them back. At least then, we will all, we'll understand. You would see why I believe what I believe. But it's not going to change your mind. But at least you will think I'm a little less crazy when I say that it's not necessary to sell any of it. So we get to the exact same point, and we don't have to give up any ownership. And how did I come to those opinions? I mean, we could have some of those people in here, so at least, and at the same time, you can go and explain how those are concrete dollars you're talking about, that are persistent, and that it can be put into some trust, and that we don't have to make sure we manage this trust, and that it would perpetuate the maintenance of this space that the citizens, in any way you dice it, the overwhelming majority, truly, and we're all there now, we're all having the same discussion, that main part of the lot, you're not talking about building there. It's what the citizens really want. We're talking about Phibbs Street, and we're talking about along the edge, and these are areas that aren't the core of the problem. They're along the edge, they are. The citizens, though, don't feel it's necessary. You feel it's necessary. We're down to those kinds of discussions. We have to get into the weeds here.
I think we are.
I know, but but hey, we got to get into the weeds before we can climb out, right? I mean, I don't understand. I don't fully buy your math, but I also don't believe it's necessary. But if the other option isn't true, then we have a fallback. We do want these things. One way to fund it is by selling some of the property. The lion's share of the property could be funded that way. I don't think it's the right way. I don't think that it makes any sense, but it gets us a long ways from where we were, right? A long ways. You have compromised a lot. Yeah. So we need to go and now show you how the other side would work, right?
This young lady right here, then we're going to wrap it up. We've got other business to attend to.
Thank you. Shadell Schulte, 25 Lafayette. I am a member of the planning board, but I'm doing a Jerry tonight saying that I'm speaking on my own behalf as a citizen. I would ask a board member to call the question to ask for a survey and have that voted on this evening.
We already have that.
Oh, we already have that?
You already have a survey?
No,
We're in the
working on
process.
I'm asking you to call the question.
I don't think we're ready to. We're going through the qualifications for the survey company. Then we have to determine what the survey is.
I'm not asking that. I'm asking for
you. can ask if somebody wants to entertain
That's
your
what I'm
ask.
doing.
That's fine.
That's what I'm asking, correct.
What do we...
She's looking for somebody to make a motion to do a survey.
Well, we're doing the survey.
But you're not doing the survey.
Put it on the record.
Put it on the record that this board is or is not in favor of conducting that survey.
Oh, I'll make a motion that the board, how do I word this? Adrian, how do I word this? Adrian's got her hand up.
Adrian, go ahead.
I think we already did this. I
thought we did.
This motion.
We did.
Oh.
I'm trying to check my notes, but I'm pretty sure we already did this. We already have a motion on the table to do this survey.
Okay, that's great. I can tell you, sitting here, it doesn't sound like it. Because the verbs I'm hearing and the adjectives I'm hearing is like, we'll consider that, we'll talk about it, we need to get resources. So I just want to make sure that this board has said that they're committed to a survey, because I just heard people say they weren't sure that we needed one.
Oh, yeah, that might be true that they don't think we need one.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah.
I'm on board. Great, thank you.
All
All right.
right. We're going to end this discussion. One more question. Go ahead.
Elise Crane, Arthur Street. It seems to me that you do surveys and then you don't like the survey outcome and then you ask for new surveys. That I'm not happy about. And the other thing is about the Zoom meetings. You have a lot of people here, but you don't have as much people that have been on those Zoom calls. This was a terrible night to come out. I actually offered to give people rides here, and nobody took me up on the offer. But it's better, especially at this time of year, to have those meetings available via Zoom. I had to leave my husband, who just had knee surgery, home. And he's okay, but I would have preferred to stay home with him. Can we go back to Zoom or have a combo of Zoom and in person, please?
We are.
I thought we agreed that we were going to do every other one. So this one is in person, the next one would be in Zoom, and we're going to try to alternate So we'd have one in-person a month and one Zoom a month. I think that the thing that we
And
did...
they may be switched up depending on what's going on, whatever.
Well,
But-
there's where we had a major kind of disagreement, and I think that when we talk about the URP moving forward, we really should have it on Zoom,
Yes.
because that's where we have this kind of turnout. And when we're doing just general business, we should have that in person, then we can have less people interrupting, we can get to know each other better, we can, you know, I would like to switch around the in-person versus the Zoom. But that, other than that, I think that's...
Just to respond to the comment about the Zoom question.
Adrian.
There's other people that they can't get on Zoom, and everybody can see the meeting on cable. It's live locally. So it's not like they can't see it. People that are participating. Adrian, go ahead.
It should be.
Adrian, go ahead.
Just to follow up briefly to the survey, the most recent motion that we took on the survey happened on August 18th, and that was to approve the solicitation of services. I'm pretty sure we may have also done other, more vague motions about the survey, but the most recent one was approving our solicitation of services. So from my perspective, we are doing the survey. In terms of Zoom, I think people know, I understand what you're saying, Barley. Everyone can watch it on Hill TV. They can't call in and participate. If they want to participate like all these people have this evening, they have to be there. So I think the board knows my opinion about continuing to allow accessibility in Zoom meetings, because I think I see the room is pretty packed from the live Hill TV feed, but we do typically have 30, 40 people at every single Zoom meeting. So I hope the next meeting, I believe we have the town planner and tech coming. Bartley, I know Chris asked if that was going to be a Zoom meeting or not. Are we doing that one on Zoom? I think it would be more convenient for them.
We were going to get to that later on in the business tonight, but I believe it should be.
Sorry, what was the end of that sentence? It should be
on Zoom.
Okay. Thank you.
Maggie Merrill, Hampton Circle. Just, I don't know what you call it, a question or what it is, but you're all talking about the possibility of getting this outfit, Wildlands or somebody like that. Do you, in the committee, need to vote to agree to invite them to come to another meeting? Is that something you guys need to vote on? Or you all agree that you think that could happen?
I think we all agree that it's going to happen. It's not going to happen at the next meeting when we get a full plate, but...
Got it, okay. Got it, thank you.
I think that as long as the chair agrees, I mean, we can move forward. I mean, if we have a disagreement with Bart, we might have to take a vote. But as a board, when we're in agreement on something, we can just do it.
All right, okay, just checking on that.
On that point, just real quick, when you talk...
Identify yourself.
Jim, on your Canton Ave. If you're going to have Wildlands Trust come in, they should really have an idea of how much time they're going to get, because they've got a lot to say. I hate to see, 5 minutes and then...
If they're coming in, they should have the time to...
Right.
Absolutely.
Jerry Torona, 6th Street. I just want to applaud the board for making the move to in-person meetings. It's something that's been talked about in the select board room for 2 years. It's been brought up by multiple select board members. When COVID started, there was a trend. There was a switch, obviously, for obvious reasons, but I think a lot of the boards hung on to the Zoom meetings. I'm not against Zoom meetings. I think what we proved here tonight is a board member can be absent from a meeting and still contribute. In addition to that, this is Zoom. So other people in town, this is a hybrid meeting, can also join in. The technology's there. We knew it was there, but I've yet to be invited to a select board meeting that I was forced to miss using this. In other words, you've just proven that the next time I can't make a select board meeting, I can make a request to join via Zoom, and there's no reason that can't happen.
Mr. Chairman, can we just clarify that? Because I don't think you heard the last time. It's only available for the member and the staff. the Zoom is not available to the public.
So I'm a little bit versed in technology. I don't know exactly what the difference is, but this is 2 or 3 individuals that joined this meeting.
They could have
A member and staff.
But
It was not open to...
But we
We're
could
not going to fix this tonight, and let's continue with the HRA stuff. We could have everybody. Adrian has her hand up. Go ahead, Adrian.
Yeah, that's silly that we...
Thank you. I forget my first point. I'll probably remember it while I say my second point, which is I don't know who, Bartley, you would have to tell me, is this the town who has decided that only staff and members can attend meetings like this? Because I actually don't know where that rule is coming from.
I don't know that it's a rule.
Okay, so, okay.
Yeah, then we should open it up.
Oh, and then the second thing was, if the board is interested in speaking with Wildlands, I had some conversations with Karen, whose last name I'm too tired to remember right now, Gray, who is the president, CEO, I don't know, something of Wildlands. She's the one who came and spoke to us previously. And so if the board is interested, I could reach out to her and see if she is interested in coming back to us. Would the board like me to do that?
Yeah, we just got to find out when we're going to have her in.
Okay, I'll float the possibility and let her know, a Monday in the future. Is that okay?
Yep.
Thank you.
Excellent.
All right, so that's going to conclude the urban renewal discussion tonight. Two-way roads. Next thing on the agenda. Before we get too far down this rabbit hole, the only thing I want to tell you about the two-way roads is that our next meeting, we're going to have Tech and Chris Diorio in here. Tech's going to give a presentation about the two-way roads, and we're going to go through that with the board. We're not going to get into a big question and answer session from the public. It's going to be strictly with the board, Tech, and Chris Diorio, and we're going to deal with that meeting at our next meeting, the 24th. The public's welcome to come, but I don't know that we're going to allow hours of public questions of the presenters because it's dragging these meetings out all night long, and so the board has work to do, and I want this board to focus on the work it has to do. So that's it on the two-way roads for tonight. Anybody else have anything on the new business? Adrian, go ahead, sorry, before I get off that.
Since we're on that topic, do we want to officially agree that that's a Zoom meeting on the 24th?
Is the rest of the board okay with that?
Yeah.
Zoom meeting on the 24th?
Well, I mean, I'm the one who actually started the Zoom piece, and I want people to know that I think it's just great to be able to put a face to the name, and what's that?
We want access, though.
And again, I applaud that.
Everybody can come here.
Let's not have a back and forth.
And I just want people to know that the only 3 meetings that I have been to, this meeting here, personally, there's been more citizen input than the other 2 meetings, and there's been as many people here that were on Zoom at the other 2. Well,
I agree with Charlie.
I count them,
But we're welcome.
well, thank you. I was hoping I was going to get a round of applause at some point, but that's not going to happen.
Good job.
All right, Adrian, go ahead.
It did seem as though Tech and Chris Diorio would prefer a Zoom meeting, because I don't know where.
That's fine.
I don't remember who's coming from Tech, but great. Zoom meeting
Zoom meeting.
for the next meeting?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any board members have anything on the new business? Board members, I said. We're done. Anybody have anything under old business?
Adrian has a hand up, too.
Oh, I have a question for Mark.
Is that where you are?
Meeting's not over.
Meeting's still going. You can't.
It's not over.
Joan's got the floor. Go ahead.
I have a question for Mark. I know you were going to send the board the changes in the executive summary in the URP.
Oh, yeah.
Just wanted to know estimated time that we would be receiving that.
Well, I was planning to send it in advance of the meeting on the 24th. So basically, I just need to get guidance from HRA in terms of when the board expects to discuss, the edits and revisions to the urban renewal plan, because it seems as if in the last 2 meetings, it's been a broader discussion of parcels and so on. But when HRA wants to get back to editing and revising the document, I think that's the appropriate time to share the existing edits and revisions in advance of that meeting. So if HRA expects to talk about it at the meeting on the 24th, I'll share it. Or, I mean, I can just share it anyway.
I would like you to share it.
We talked about it at some future point.
I think it might help us get back on track. Right, focus. So whenever you can get that to us, I think we'd all benefit.
Yes.
Right. Adrian, go ahead.
I agree that it would be helpful to get that information sooner rather than later. I'm not sure if we would want to take the time to do it on the 24th meeting if we already have tech and then also the solicitation of services to handle during that meeting. But I would greatly welcome the information or the edits.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, I have one piece of new business. We got 7 notices from the Hull Conservation Commission, and I'll read it aloud. They're all the same notice, so it must have been for each lot. Hull Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on a notice of intent filed by the Town of Hull for work described as proposed operations and management plan for the North Nantasket Beach. Proposed project is located along Beach Ave, map and various lots. This hearing will be part of the commission meeting to be held on Tuesday, November 25th, 2025, beginning at 6:30 p.m. The meeting will be held remotely. Details on how to access the meeting can be found on the town's event calendar at townofhull.ma.us/calendar/month. Said hearing will be held pursuant to the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40. A copy of the permit application is on file with the Hull Conservation Office at the Hull Municipal Building, 253 Atlantic Ave. Adrian, go ahead.
Thank you for bringing that to us. It's very helpful that we're getting our mail now. Would you, it's only 10 years or so. Can we, would you mind scanning that and sending it, just one of them, if they're all the same?
It came today, so it wasn't sitting there. I will scan it, but
That's fine.
I got it today on my desk.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right. Anybody else have anything under new business?
Adrian.
Adrian, go ahead. Go ahead. You're on mute.
Sorry, this is new business, not old business? My apologies.
This is new business. We're going to old business next if there's no more new business.
Okay, great. I got old business.
All right. All right. No more new business. Let's do old business. Adrian, go ahead.
Sweet, thanks. I was just looking for an update on the letter our council was going to send to the 125, 127 Bay Street. Do we have any, I feel like there's a few outstanding council things, so do we have any general updates from our lawyers? Any of the many things?
Quick update on the letters. I'm not sure where that stands. Paulo is away.
Okay.
I'm going to screw up his name. Mr. LeVay is the litigator to deal with the parking lot operator. I have to send him a couple of things, and he's going to serve the parking lot operator to deal with that issue. So once he does that, I will forward a copy of all that information to the board. The one thing I do need is copies of the checks with routing numbers. I think you gave them to Mark.
Oh, I sent them to Mark. I can...
Can you forward them to me?
I'll forward them to you.
And I had to send some pictures. They were drone pictures that I took a few different days down there just to show the capacity and stuff. But that's in the works, and so we should have an update, hopefully the 24th. Adrian, go ahead.
Great. What does anything have to do with capacity? I don't believe that was part of the defaults on the lease.
No, but at one point, I think he was going to try to make an argument that they couldn't fit the 900 cars on there. So,
Okay. I mean, I don't think that matters. He signed an agreement, so
I get that, but it's just,
yeah.
it's evidence of full lots.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, actually, if we're still on Paula, do we have a plan? I know she's retiring. Was there some next steps for how we're going to move forward with Redwood?
In December, one of the meetings, we're going to have to bring council in, and so we can talk about that. Mark, go ahead. I think you might be first on that.
Oh, sure. I just wanted to mention that when Joan had sent copies of those checks to me, you were also on that email, Bartley, so you should have those.
Right.
Yeah, so just go back in your email and you should probably have those. And if you don't, I can forward that.
All right. Will do. All right. So we're going to try to schedule a meeting in December with Pierce Atwood so we can come in and talk about transition. Paul is retiring at the end of the year. So I did talk to her, but she was going on vacation. So she should be coming back, I believe, this next week. All right. Anybody else have anything under old business? All right. We're not going back to the audience. We're wrapping up tonight.
I'm asking, is a point of order?
Point of order.
Are you doing the negotiations for this parking lot? Because I thought you were supposed to recuse yourself from parking lot things.
I'm not negotiating anything. We're going to be litigating.
Okay, and you're involved in that, is what you're saying?
As the chairman, I'm involved in it. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Anything else under old business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Anybody want to make that motion?
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
Motion
second.
adjourned by Richardson. Your second?
Second.
Second by Joan Senator. All those in favor? Signify by saying aye.
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 Would you think that